everybody, in today's sewing tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a simple pillowcase dress. One like this. We're just going to use ribbon to tie it to hold it up. You're not going to need to know how to do buttons or a zipper. It's going to be very, very simple. All you need is a sewing machine. That's it, not even a serger. And of course we're going to add a bow to it. And for today's bow, I'm just going to show you how to make a simple one just using a hot glue gun. That's it. You don't need to know how to sew even for the bow. Alright, so let's get started. The size I'm making today is 4T, but to make sure you do the right size for your girl, you need to measure right below the collarbone, and depending on the length is how you need to measure it. So if you want it shorter, just measure it right above the knee. If you want it longer, measure it below the knee. Now I always recommend doing it longer below the knee because then she can wear it for a few years, and as it gets shorter when she grows, you can just add leggings on underneath it and it's still very nice. Okay, so for the length for my daughter, I am going to do 24 inches. Now the dress isn't going to end up being 24 inches, it's going to end up being about 20 inches. So you need to give yourself about 4 inches for all the hemming that we're going to do. Okay, and for the width, I'm just going to use the width of the fabric, and the width of this fabric is 42 inches. Okay, so when I fold it in half, it's just going to be 21 inches. And that's all that I need for the width, so from here to here. Now if you're making a smaller dress, just measure a dress that your daughter already has. Usually I would just take it in for my daughter who's one about 2, maybe 3 inches, and it's still pretty good to go. Alright, so before you start cutting your fabric, what you need to do is wash it and then iron it out. So I've already done that, so now I'm ready to cut my fabric. So I'm going to cut my fabric and then we'll go from there.
And I can feel my hands, no need to chase. Can you relate? Can you keep up the pace like you're dying for this? And when you say I'm not okay, I let my phone in the air, now you can't get me.
Okay, you always want to make sure when you're measuring it and when you cut it that your salvage ends match up, that they line up completely. Now don't try to cut those off because we're actually just going to hem them and cover them up. So leave those on there. Those are for us to work with. Alright, now that you've cut it to length, it's folded in half because we're using the width. But go ahead and cut down that line. Now if you feel that you're not going to be able to cut it straight, go ahead and take it to the ironing board and iron it flat, and that will give you a good crease that you can work with to cut it straight. So that's what I'm going to do.
I'm only getting started. I won't back out. It's not kind of thing. Let's go a little.
Okay, now that you have your 2 separate pieces, we are going to prep it. And what you need to do is, for the length, we need to go ahead and fold in maybe 1/3 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch. You're going to fold it in and then you're going to put a crease in it. So go ahead and do that.
I'm only getting started, and I can see your face. Take her at the wrong way.
Alright, and after you put that crease in it, we're going to do it again. So you're going to fold it right back over because you don't want to hem it like this, because then you're going to have that jagged edge, and we don't want that. We want to have a nice finished edge. So fold it in again. Just like that. And now, you see how it has that nice, crisp, clean edge? Now we can go ahead and put a hem in it. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and crease and iron all 4 of my length sides, and then I'll be ready so I can just sew right through it. Okay, now that you have ironed both sides, we are going to go ahead and hem it. So you folded it in twice and you've ironed it. So since you've ironed it, you already have a nice, crisp crease in it, so you won't need to pin it. All you need to do, make sure you have a straight edge and sew from top to bottom. Now if you're new at sewing, don't forget that you also need to backstitch.
top of my lungs. I've been dying for this. And when you say I'm not okay, I let my flow in the shade. Now you can't get mad. I'm only getting started. I won't black out. It's not my kind of thing. Let's go a little harder.
Okay, so you've done all 4 sides of the length. Now, normally, well, always you want to use a coordinating ribbon color. So for this pattern, it's just pink and white. You would want to use white. But I have found this awesome ribbon, and I'm new to it, but it's clear, and I love it. It's ribbon, thread, I meant thread. So clear thread. I use it for everything. It's awesome. And then I don't ever have to change it. Alright, so now that we have done all the sides, we are going to go ahead and make our casing. That's the top piece that's going to hold the ribbon. So our ribbon is 7/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and make the casing about 1 1/8 inch wide. So I will measure that and I will iron it down so it can stay into place. Okay, we've ironed the fabric for the casing, which looks like this. I did the same thing I did for the sides. I folded it a little bit, ironed it, and then measured out for my casing. Now you want to make sure that the first fold you did and ironed is the same length for both pieces of fabric, because you don't want 2 different lengths in the dress. Alright, now we are just going to hem it, and you're going to have an opening to put your ribbon through. Okay, now you have the casing ready to put your ribbon through. The last thing we need to do to this before we put 2 pieces together is the bottom. Okay, so you need to go ahead and do the same thing that you did to the sides. Okay, we're going to fold it over, we're going to iron it, and then we're going to fold it again, and then we're just going to hem it. Okay, so now we are going to measure the ribbon for the casing. You're going to need to cut 2 pieces of ribbon because you're going to have 2 bows on each side. To measure the length, you are going to put 1 ribbon all the way across, and then you're going to double it. So whatever the length is, just fold the ribbon back, and then you can cut it. So the ribbon needs to be double the size of the casing, and you need 2 pieces that are the same length. We're going to come back and finish the ribbon later. Alright, now that you have 2 pieces that are completely ready to be put together for the dress, you are going to put them finished side to finished side, just like this. Now you will need to bust out those pins.
Yeah.
Alright, you have both sides together, facing each other. See? And you're going to pin all the way from the bottom to the top. Well, not all the way to the top. You need to leave an opening for the arms. Now for Lana, I'm going to do 6 to 7 inches. I'll say 7 inches. Now, you don't want it too big because then you can see through and you'll have to wear a t-shirt or something underneath it. So what you need to do is measure a t-shirt of your daughter's. So not a fitted tee, but a regular t-shirt. And if you measure the width of the armpit opening, that should give you an idea of how big you want it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 7 inches. So right there, and then pin it up on both sides and we can hem it together. Okay, let's say that you've messed up maybe 1/8 of an inch or smaller, hopefully it's smaller, on the length. Maybe they're not exactly right. I mean, mine is very, very tiny. You want to make sure that it's the same length, the same on the bottom when you're pinning up, because if it's a little bit off on the top, that's okay, because the tops aren't going to be together. One's going to be on the front and one's going to be on the back, so you're not going to be able to tell. So it's not that big of a deal, but make sure the bottom is the same length. So then you pin all the way up on one side, and then make sure you pin the exact same opening for the arm on the other side. Okay, now our 2 pieces are completely sewn together. before we turn it inside out and before we put the ribbon in, we need to go ahead and cut the edges of the ribbon and heat seal them. So for the edge, I want this nice tail. You just fold the ribbon and you cut it at an angle. And there you have it. Now you need to heat seal it with a lighter. If you don't have a lighter, maybe you have fray check, you can use that as well. This keeps it from fraying when you wash it and such. I like to use both. Just double security. So you fold it, you heat seal it, fray check it. Alright, now we're going to slide it through the casing. Now to do that, you need to grab a safety pin, put it in your ribbon, and you put it through one side of the casing, and you just inch it all the way over to the other side. It works best with a bigger safety pin.
I'm only getting started. I won't black out. It's time I got nothing. Let's go a little harder. I won't black out.
Alright, and you pull it through like that. Now I did forget to mention that when you put the safety pin in the ribbon and pull it through, it usually leaves a big fat hole in the ribbon. So actually to fix that, we are just going to cut it again. Make a whole new edge. See? No hole. Gotta do that for both of them. Alright, and you might think that you are done at this point and you can flip it inside out and tie it, but you're not. You see, there's nothing holding this ribbon from pulling it out. So when you wash it, it can tangle up and come out. If your daughter plays hard, then it could, untie and come out, and then you're at the grocery store, which that's happened to me, and you have no way to put it back through the loop. So, to ensure this ribbon doesn't come out, and since we have clear thread, it's going to be really easy. You're just going to put a line right in the middle. So make sure you have even amount of ribbon hanging off both sides. Looks good to me. And you're just going to put a little stitch right through the middle. On both sides. That way your ribbon's not going anywhere. Okay, here's my model. We have our dress. We have done everything that you need to do. Now is the fun part where you turn it inside out. You can check all your hems. Looks good. Let's place it over her. You like your Georgia dress? Pretty, and that is how easy it is to make a pillowcase dress.